Good morning. I seem to do better on these YouTube videos if I read what I've got and I watch the clock here. I don't think it's going to take over 10 minutes to read this short poem or whatever it is. I wrote this back in 1992. It's called Prelude to the Revolutionary. In the morning it was sleeping trees, once lost upon the wind, now old of rains. Blue tears watered the leaves. The childhood of the revolutionary, where the bumblebee soldiers shared in his electric smiles. The manure piles were sweet that year, as the maggots debated o'er dung or blood. The ants, mindless sugar addicts, he left to their own. They never stop to think, he said, and then they are gone. Down noon, as mother called, son, he sat amongst the Hindu souls of the tumblebug and fraternized, smiling out, his face bright in his love. I can help, and as the dark noon will come, he discovered that to rob an entity of its labor is unkind and unjust. As mother washed the manure from his face in the back porch tub, the revolutionary splashed and laughed, and mother sung. Now sisters are sisters, as nuns are nuns, and love is love, but only to some. She was a thin dime girl, her hair as black in the storm as lovers' hells. But it had begun long ago in Gascony or Normandy, into the Battle of Hastings as sabers broke across bone in the dark loneliness of history, from whence she moans. There stood the revolutionary cursing the dawn for beauty, for the angel arrow sunk deep in his loin. Later the panzers and the Jews who arose and at heaven's passages looked back once again, never sure why or even if being had left them alone. The revolutionary's tears ran down the hills. He looked into that dark morning of Jesus said. He awoke in the madness of fever as the scarlet nun bent to dress his wounds. She glowed in the silence of kindness as he spoke. Have we the day? She wrung the blood and dried the brittle. She wrung the blood dried and brittle now and brought more water. Her hand touched his face. He fell back in peace, and for a moment, sure in her eyes, he said, love is because it believes that it is. There were others there, and so she moved on, though remembering always his words, his lack of tears at his death in the morning sun. But was only a dream, for the revolutionary was not gone. No substance speaks so loud or lasts so long as that intangible truth in the heart of the dawn. I read that to an English professor once, and he said, well, what does it mean? And, well, it means whatever, I just wrote it. It doesn't mean anything, I guess. I don't know. What does it mean? Meaning is sometimes hard to figure out. On my prior video, I was waving my Bible. My good wife made this. If I can get it in front of the camera here, made this marker for me. She knitted it. Isn't it nice? It's blue to mark pages. It's really nice. I treasure it. But another book is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita. this is another scripture of the Hindus. You can read it. I was watching about Oppenheimer the other night, how they crucified, metaphorically at least, Oppenheimer, who did his best to help his country, what he thought was helping his country, and then they just crucified him because at one time he had an interest in communism, and he knew some of his friends who were communists. Whatever an American communist in the 1930s was. I think I've got another couple of minutes. Here's another book. This is the I Ching, the Book of Changes. It's a book of Chinese wisdom. I suppose some people would say that it was evil because it has such. You can consult it, I guess. It has thunder and wind, the image of duration. Thus the superior man stands firm and does not change his direction. It has different stuff like that in it that I suppose could be construed as witchcraft by some fanatics. I don't know. It's just Confucian. It's a different culture. And so back to hell. Christian love is not about hell. Hell might be viewed by some, as a tool, like a small child, that you put fear into the child so that they won't touch the stove. In some cultures, and those cultures surprisingly are very successful, although with the impact and influence of the white man, I don't know what's become of them now, but they would allow the children to touch the stove and burn themselves. They only had to do that once, and nobody had to tell them not to do it again. And they, maybe some people would say, well, that's cruel. That's it teaches. It's another way of teaching. And so, anyways, my 10 minutes I see is probably up. So maybe I'll come back and try to bring a song, a happy song or something. Okay. Going to hell in a bucket. So long.